It's like, hey everybody, Marissa with discoverintuition.com and my dad.
Joe Morris answers, heaven speaks.
How's everyone doing?
Go, Marissa, you talk. I'm looking to see if I can get on.
We're here. I don't know what we are doing today. I know that we're talking about Gabriel, I think. Before we got logged in here, I did a little meditation, and some of the guides are here, but mostly just our higher selves and source. And source, I don't know how to define source, but it's just a big ball of light.
What I'm trying to do is on like Mondays, I like to acknowledge some of the people that give us likes and hearts. And I tried to do it on my Galaxy phone, and that one didn't work. And so as I was reaching over for my iPad, Marissa said, 3, 2, 1, hey, we're live.
Go grab your iPad. I'll sing.
I've got it right here in front of me.
This is the part that I can embarrass for.
We had 120. We had kind of a goofy show on Friday because my electricity, it took us like an hour and a half to get started on Friday, but that's not anything new. And as soon as we got started, my electricity went off. So I lasted. I don't know how I lasted. I lasted for maybe 15 minutes or so, and then finally it went completely out. So anyway, little housekeeping here in the beginning. Let me just read off some of the names. Some of the names that
I'm still here. Don't worry. I'll just let you be big on the screen so you can do this part.
No, I'm no bigger, but that's all right. Stylish Sabaj, Hargovind Singh, Muhammad Akram, Mukhabai Mukabai, Shahid Ali Guihar, Azim Rana, Pathan Afak, Lakan Kohli, Mahtab Ansari, Azam Janjwa, Baran Nayak, Ramesh Behera, Nadan Pathan. Let's see if I can get out of the Arabic names. See if I can get into some. God, so many Arabic names. Like so many. There's even an Abdul Jabbar. Believe it or not, it looks like a little baby. Who is this? Abdul Jabbar. No, it's not a baby. Yeah, one's a baby. Abdul Jabbar. How about that? I think of the basketball player. What was his name? Lou Alcindor changed his name to, the fighter became Muhammad Ali. That was kind of funny because he converted to Islam. I just see a lot of Arabic names on here. I'm really sorry. So many of them. So let me kind of stick in that because I know I've got a lot of people from, we've got a lot of people from South America that come in here as well. Philippe Trocure, Edna Bolado, Pastor Kamran, Abdul Karim Abu Zed. There's Gail. I recognize Gail Freelich. Uzman Khan, Farhan Ali, Ishaq Mangal, Bashit, Pranjit Boro, Birbal Box. I don't know if these are all. I don't know if these are all Indian or Pakistani names or what have you. But let me tell you something. I had a number of people that tried to get donations from me for the afflicted over in Pakistan. We have, I think, United States, as far as followers go, I think United States is on top. India's number 2. There's that stupid mosquito. It's huge. He's a huge one.
He's going to get you.
Yeah. Next time he flies by my head, I'm going to try to get him. Hopefully I won't hit the phone like I did last time. Anyway, I think it's either India or the United States are number 1 followers of us. And we've got a little over 6,000 now, 6,400. And then number 3 is Pakistan. We have a lot of people from Pakistan, a lot of people from Philippines, also a number of people from all the different states down in South America. And so I don't know if we're losing people in South America because we've incorporated a little bit of Muhammad in here. because we kind of want to have some idea who he is, seeing as they're the number two um, religion in the world. Number one is Christianity. Christianity is 2.6 billion. That's 2,600 million. Here he comes again. Where'd he go? You want to? Let me get him. There. I think I got him. Oh no, he's flying away again.
He's just minding his
Doggone it.
own business.
Yeah, I
But
smacked him
he
with my
needs to
hat, but
eat.
he
He's
just,
you.
yeah, no, I don't think he's the kind that actually bites you. I don't know what kind that is. It's the one that has the little kind of long legs and a long neck and
Big butt.
a big butt, a big bulb on the back. But anyway, listen, I've had a lot of people from Pakistan, Christians, Pakistani Christians contacting me, telling me how bad things are over there. And we had a big discussion about that a little bit on Friday, maybe on Thursday. Marissa was kind of taking the opposing point of view that everybody's in it for a scam.
I don't even believe that they're all
That
over in
we,
Pakistan. I just think that they say they are and they're asking for money.
well, maybe so. So what I did was I did try. I did get some money out to one person. Another person had failed.
No.
And Marissa, I'm talking about $25.
Okay, well, stop.
$25. $25 is a half a week's pay for somebody in Pakistan.
I know. I'm just
So
protected. So
so that buys food. That buys food. So what? So maybe somebody scammed me out of it. I don't think so, because he thanked me and he's written to me a few other times and never asked for money. But what I did was I did do some research. I read many articles about what's going on in Pakistan, in Faisalabad and Punjab, in Pakistan. And yeah, I mean, it's article after article from places all over the world saying how terrible it is. I found one that you can donate to, and you don't have to donate in through other people. It's an actual organization, and they're located in the United Kingdom and also in Pennsylvania. And they're entitled BarnabasAid.org. BarnabasAid.org. And they help out Christians all over the world, but they have a specific category that you can donate to, and that's for the aid in Faisalabad, for the Christians over there. Apparently, only 2% of the population in Pakistan, and I've got all these people who are following us from Pakistan. Only 2% are Christian in the whole country, and they're discriminated against. They're the low-class workers. They're the maids. They're the people that work in the sewers, pick up your trash. If you're a Christian, you can't get a high-paying job. You're so badly discriminated against over there. How they continue with their faith, I don't know.
why would
I
they
really,
even tell anybody that they're Christian then? I wouldn't. I would just keep it to myself.
well, they have their churches. They have churches,
Oh,
and they want to give praise and glory to Jesus. And the Muslims over there don't even know their own Quran. They don't even understand their own Quran. And I can be positive when I'm saying that, because nothing they're doing to Christians is allowed under their Quran. The only time you can hurt somebody of the book and you're Muslim is technically if somebody becomes a Muslim and then leaves the faith of Islam. But if they were forced into it in the first place, otherwise they off with their neck, then all bets are off. They should be able to get out of it, because one of Muhammad's conditions was that religion is not compulsory, and when you're speaking of the Quran, you do it in a positive light, in a way selling it, but you don't proselytize. You don't beat people over the head and make them become Muslims. But that's what's happened throughout Africa, and it's what's happened throughout Pakistan, throughout the entire Mideast, basically. And the people of the book, again, are Christians and Jews. Christians and Jews. Because it all goes back to Abraham. Now, what Marissa and I were working on, I don't know where you want to go. Hopefully you had a good weekend, Marissa.
yeah.
I never know. I mean, I'm ready to go in many directions. up until 3 weeks ago, I was on the life of Jesus Christ, Jesus, Yeshua. And in fact, let me back up for a second. You found some kind of way of explaining how we went from Yeshua to Jesus, and they don't really like using it. But I did some studying that as well, and I didn't find that lesos that you found. It's actually when Yeshua is translated into Greek, his name becomes Jesus. Yeshua becomes Jesus. And then that might be Latin. And then when you I think it's Latin. Might be Greek.
Greek. I think it was
Latin.
Greek. I just heard
I
Greek.
think it is. Yeah, because Latin, I couldn't find it in Latin. And yet you had found it in Latin, and it was like lesos or something. But anyway, in Greek, Yeshua becomes Jesus. And then when that is translated into English, it's Jesus. It's Jesus. So it's like Shakespeare said, a rose by any other name would still smell so sweet. So it doesn't really matter what we call Jesus. He's still the same person.
Unless you
And
don't
we
believe.
know it, unless you don't believe. And I mean, Jesus has told us so many times that literally 85% of Christians really don't believe because they don't know what to believe. And they don't know how to believe. They don't know how to believe in a man who is supposedly a God. And then we've got the Muslim religion that believes in Jesus. They believe him as the Messiah, as the second coming. They're waiting for his second coming, but they don't believe he resurrected on the after being crucified. And so that's their belief. And why they do, I think we've covered that a few times. Because I think many of them go back to a phrase in the Apocalypse of Peter, and where Peter is talking to Jesus, and Jesus is up in a tree laughing, pointing at a fleshy person on the cross. Well, what Jesus was pointing out in there was almost like a parable, or what's the other term for
Metaphor?
metaphor? Yeah, like a metaphor. It was like a metaphor. He's pointing to his flesh. He was saying his flesh dies, but not the spirit. And he was laughing about it. But they took it completely different. Muslims took it as Jesus never was resurrected. And so they're not supposed to hold anything against Christians that believe in the resurrection, but they do. They do. And it's not fair. And so
okay.
Go ahead, Marissa.
Oh, okay. So yesterday in church, we were talking about, I wasn't even listening to church yesterday because he started talking about the parable that we talked about. Or no, I was listening to your show on you guys, we have a podcast, by the way, in case you miss any shows. We're going to start putting our things onto a podcast. I got a request by one of the people that listens to the show every day. And she says, since Facebook's so screwy, you guys should do a podcast. So that way they can listen in the car or whatever, so we're not. So my assistant, she's going to start editing these and chop off the electronics don't work and blah, blah, blah. Put a little beginning at the beginning and end of our podcast. It'll probably be like under an hour so that we can put it into Apple Podcast. But I don't remember what I was saying. What was I saying? Oh, so I was listening to one of our podcasts. It's number 20 on the number 20, episode 20. And it's just my dad. Tawny comes in. He's talking to her a little bit about stuff, whatever. But he was talking about the different parables about how they don't make any sense from the Bible. So we were talking about that, the exact parable that you were talking about, the poor man or the rich man or something like that. You were talking about money and God and stuff. And then so our pastor this weekend was talking about that too. And then I just kind of tuned him out because he said something about sixes, and then he said something about something else. So I always have my Bible on my phone, and I just got this this Galaxy phone. So I was kind of playing with it, and I turned to something. It was the Nag Hammadi Bible. He said something about Peter, so I started looking it up, and there's actual Bible, because he was talking about how there's the New King James version, and then there was another version of the Bible that came like before that. So he was reading from that because he says the New King James version doesn't even make sense. It just makes it sound like it doesn't make sense. He said, and the translations are so screwy that it's no wonder that people don't believe, because it just doesn't make any sense the way they translate it. So I started thinking about the Yeshua thing, but I looked up something. Yesterday was the 7th, or what was, I'm trying to look at the history in my online search, but it was Adam's Revelations. Have you seen that before? It's in the Nag Hammadi Bible. Is it called Nag Hammadi? Not Nag, Nag, Nag Hammadi.
The Nag Hammadi texts are the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Oh, okay. So there's a
And they're
revelation
found,
from
the
Adam.
Dead Sea Scrolls were found in Nag Hammadi, in the
Okay,
caves
yeah.
of Nag Hammadi. And
Did
there
you know
isn't
that?
a Bible. They just have a lot of all the different books written that they found. But there's no Nag Hammadi Bible.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
There,
so did
there
you
are
know that
Nag
there's a
Hammadi
revelation from
texts.
Adam?
No, I knew there was a revelation from Peter, and
Yeah,
the
no, there's
one
one from
from
It is. Here it is.
John.
Check this out. Oh, it's called Apocalypse of Adam. Check this out. It's crazy. So I started reading it, and then as soon as I started reading, oh, I need my glasses. I can't see anything. I started reading it, and I was like, all of a sudden, all the guides came in, and they were like, blah, 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 like during church. So I was taking notes, and I was like, you know what, we should talk about this in our show sometime, because it's like he talks about how Adam's telling his son Seth, maybe. Let me see. The text concludes a prophecy about a group of people who will fight against the power and the coveted by the cloud of darkness, the people who do not follow the power. They call God the power. That's what they call God. They don't call God God or the light or whatever. In it, he calls God the power. And didn't we talk about that at one point? Didn't the guides call it
Yeah,
the power at one point?
yeah,
I
yeah. I
remember that.
remember. Yeah, we were talking about that maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I think that's interesting that the guide said that. So when I saw that in the Apocalypse thing, I was like, no way. I remembered that because I watched the show afterwards, the Apocalypse of Adam. But we should read that sometime, because it's that's what I was looking up. I was looking up the Gnostic Bibles, because the Gnostic stuff is what
Yeah,
came before the King James and all that stuff. And I remembered that from when me and Isabel used to be really into this stuff. But the one thing that he says in here that I found interesting that I wanted to ask the guides about is let's see, the fall of Adam and Eve, the revelation that Adam taught his son Seth in the 700th year. This is only 2 paragraphs I'm going to read. In the 700th year, saying, "Listen to my words, my son Seth. When God created me out of the earth along with your mother Eve, I went about with her in a glory that she saw in the eternal realm from which we came. She taught me knowledge of the eternal God, and we resembled the great eternal angels, for we were higher than the God who created us and the powers with him whom we did not know." So we resembled the great eternal angels, for we were higher than the God who created us and the powers with him whom we did not know. God, the ruler of the realms and the powers divided us in wrath, and then we became two beings. And the glory in our hearts left us, me and your mother Eve, along with the first knowledge that breathed in us, the thing that breathed in us. And glory fled from us and entered another great realm. Your mother Eve and I didn't come from this realm, but knowledge entered into the seed of great eternal beings. For this reason, I myself have called you by the name of that person who is the seed of the great generation, or its predecessor. This is the last sentence. After those days, the eternal knowledge of the God of truth withdrew from me and your mother Eve. Then we learned about the inanimate as we did about human beings. We recognized the God who created us. We were not strangers to his powers, and we served him in fear and slavery. But what I find interesting is it keeps kind of going on and on and on about how Adam and Eve awakened and all this stuff. But I find it interesting that they said we are more powerful than the God that created us, because the guides came in and they were like, this is true. You are much more powerful than the God that created you. The God that created you, that I could see it was like Christ, how you say it's Michael, the sun or whatever. There goes the mosquito. Did you see the
yeah,
mosquito?
yeah.
Anyways,
It just went up there.
I heard a buzzing in my ear, and I was like, "Oh, it's Peter going." Bzzz. Peter's like making fun.
No.
But I found it interesting that he said that he was created from the dust, and the power that was the truth went into another realm that Adam and Eve were not from this realm. I just found it interesting. I think that we should probably read that sometime and channel about it, because the guides were coming through saying that we are much more powerful than the that created us, because we have God within us. We have that same God within us, but we also have the spirit of the earth, and we also have the soul of the the master soul that is our guiding force within us and around us. So we have these three separate things that are great, that are inside of us, in addition to the human consciousness that we are. So we can use the God consciousness that we are, which is the human consciousness, and the God that created us was basically there. What the guides were saying was another human being thought us up. And so I started thinking about virtual reality, and I started thinking about AIs, and I was like, oh my God, are we created by an AI? Because remember that show that we watched? This is the what do they call it? I'm going to ruin it for you if you haven't seen the show, but it's the show about how people's consciousness goes into people in the past, and they take people over, and then it turns out that the director of the whole thing, you think it's a person, it was actually an AI, is actually the one that's in charge in the future, and it has no emotions and feelings, but it's sending all these people back into the past to try and stop something from happening in the future. But it turns out in the end that the God is basically an AI that rules everything. And it was just kind of trippy, because I started thinking about just all that stuff. And it doesn't feel too far off, not necessarily that God's an AI, but it does feel like some sort of artificial intelligence is in charge of something somewhere in the distant future. Or maybe that there's some sort of intelligence that was created by man that's in charge of this realm. And we always say we're in a virtual reality, right? We always say we're in a video.
Yeah, it's like we're in a video game, and I picture my soul with the controller in his hands,
Yep.
using his thumbs to move me around inside the game.
Yeah.
That's a way for us to kind of picture how our
I don't
soul
think
is
it's too far off, though.
controlling
I
us.
do think it's there's some sort of intelligence that's probably our own, that works kind of like when I channel, I always feel like I'm definitely channeling a robot. Like I'm channeling a robot of myself, or I'm channeling like a big pool of information that when I'm channeling, I mean, I don't say, I don't say, I'm just, it just comes through. So I always think about the fact that I'm probably some sort of, maybe not artificial intelligence, let's just call it intelligence. There's some form of there is some form of intelligence, and I don't think it's God. I think it's just a big pool of information, kind of the way artificial intelligence works, that we can all tune into and tap into. And what Adam was saying there in that Revelation thing, or the apocalypse of Adam, was that they were separated from their intelligence, and the truth that was that they knew was separated and left with that intelligence, and that they were cast down into a different realm that they were not from. And so I think that that's what happens to us when we fall into fear, and we fall into making decisions out of fear. I'm not going to say who it is, but I'm dealing with somebody who I care about a lot, is dealing with their child, and they are like, no, they can't go to the military. No, they can't do this. No, they can't do that, but they have to do something. But it's like there's so much fear in everything that this person is doing with their kid, that they're like stopping them. Like it's like whatever they want to do, it's like, no, but they can't do this. No, but I can't let them go. No, but they need to go do this. And it's like when we live our lives, we have to trust God, and we have to just allow things to flow. And there's just so many people, myself included, that try to control things. And when it goes against what the intelligence that is us wants for us, life just sucks. And that's what they call sin. That's what the guide said. The guide said, when we act in fear, we are immediately in sin. And we could have the best intentions ever, but we're sinning if we choose fear. And I mean, look at all the people who did that and are dying now because they acted out of fear, and now stuff is happening. And I guess that was considered, I wouldn't say it's sin, but when we choose to what Peter's saying, when we choose to worship fear over faith and trust that we're going to be taken care of, that's when we fall off of our soul's path, and we don't have that guiding force that is our soul. We still have our spirit. We still have our God consciousness that's the witness of our reality. It's like our God consciousness is just like a little camera watching, and then our spirit is this burning bright light of energy that keeps us alive. But our soul is the one that picks us up I picture like a cat, the mom picking it by the neck and just walking along with it. The soul just kind of picks us up and goes, hey, you idiot, come back over here. Let's go this way. But if we are detached from our soul, that's why we die, because we don't have any sort of path to be on. But anyways, that's what the guides were rambling on and on and on about in church. That's why I don't remember what the pastor talked about this weekend. but we should read the Adam, and there's another one too. There's Adam's apocalypse. There's apocalypse of like 7 different people. I think there's one of Noah and I think Abraham too. It's really cool. And I'm not into that, like reading all the Bible stuff, but it's really cool.
Well, I
Um,
hadn't heard of those. I knew that there was the revelation of Peter. I didn't know that there was an Adam revelation. I didn't know that Adam knew how to write. I thought Enoch was the first one to write, according to
probably.
the book of Enoch. So I'm not sure how Adam wrote a book of Revelation if he didn't even write, because there was no writing at all until Enoch came along, and Enoch was the 7th generation of Adam. So I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, he's the seventh generation of Adam.
Somebody else may have wrote that. But remember, we read the Urantia book last week, and we explained who Adam and Eve were, and they were material sons and daughters that come from the headquarters planet in of our system. And our system is run by Lucifer, and he was the bright and evening star one time. But he fell.
It's run by
Adam,
Satan and it's created by Lucifer, is what they just said. Sorry.
yeah, because our system is called Satania. So Adam and Eve came to the earth on a seraphic transport, and they were awakened after traveling here on a seraphic transport. That's exactly what the Urantia book says.
Out of the
And
cloud.
when they were brought down to the temple that had been built by Amadon and Van in the garden, they were refigured with they're in essence angels. We would consider them angels, but they're really just scientists. They're scientists from up there, and they had been working for thousands and thousands of years. Boy, I think I got
Wait,
close to
Van
getting
is the
them.
god that created Adam, and Adam is Amadon, right? So when you just said Van, I just heard Van is the god that created him, and that's the one that we're more powerful than.
Van was an angel of Lucifer's that would not fall, and then he blended with the human race that existed at that time. Think Neanderthals, and he was angelic in nature, and he blended with them and came up with Amadon. So Amadon is sort of like the first blended
Amadon's Adam,
human. What?
the third Adam. I just heard Amadon is the third Adam.
I don't know about that, but then they were welcomed. Adam and Eve were welcomed. Doggone that great big thing! Ay ay ay! Oh, I just knocked my
Bible makes
phone.
it seem like
Sorry.
they're just like were plopped down into a garden and they were just like chilling in a garden for like 1,000
I'm
years.
just telling. I'm just telling you what the Rancher book says.
Oh no, I'm saying, but the Bible is kind of lame in that it's not the Bible's not lame, but the way they describe Adam and Eve, it just sounds like they were just like sitting in a garden, like all of a sudden they just arrived and they were just sitting there. The Urantia book has a much better description, I think.
Yeah, it does, and we read it last week, and we're still into doing that. We haven't gotten real far. We
Mm-hmm.
haven't even gotten into the default, but we kind of went through the default a little bit differently last week. But anyway, they came down as material son and daughter. There's always a material and a material son and a material daughter that come to a uh, experimental experimental planet. And that's what Earth was, a life experimental planet, because it ended up having water. They created all kinds of animals and everything. That stupid thing is just bound determined.
Jeff knows
There.
that he's gonna knock his camera over. Just watch.
Ah.
Jeff has a salt gun. He like goes and go and he shoots them because he doesn't like them.
Well,
I
he's trying to get out because he's against the window, but then he
poor
gets
guy.
frustrated and then he comes back to me. And now
But he's got brains.
he's trying to go out the other window, but now here he comes. He's coming back again. I want to try and
You
slap
just
him.
do have brains. You got to
I don't
catch him
think
in a little. I
so.
have a spider catcher that I have the
No,
kids.
they don't have brains. They just have
They
instinct.
put a cup in
Just
and then we put paper under it and let them go back to their families. That's what I tell the kids.
no, they never go back to their families because bugs are bugs.
I know, but that's what I tell.
They live for a few days and die. They don't raise
Right.
families. They just have lots of eggs and
I
then they
choose to believe
exist,
they go
and
on
then they die. I've got to get this thing. Hang on.
Buggator.
Just trying to get him. Stupid thing. He just won't leave me
Yeah, he likes to
alone.
look at me while my dad annihilates the bug. I'll put you back on camera when you're
Okay. All
he's
right.
back. Okay. So, well, why don't
So
we just
anyway, let me just get off
um,
of this because we're going off in a bunch of tangents. What
let's
we were
keep reading
trying.
about Adam then. Whatever we were doing, I didn't remember what we were doing, but that's just what happened this weekend, and the guides brought it to my attention about the Adam, the apocalypse of Adam. I just thought that was so interesting that Adam had a apocalypse. Yeah, I thought he knows how to write, or he knew how to write, but I mean, it was only what, how many years ago? Adam and Eve was like what, 6,000 years ago or something like that. They
Technically, yeah,
say,
yeah.
but like the earth is really like what, 83 billion years old. It's like super old. So you figure that could have technically been the third Adam. I mean, there could have been Adams before, and then the earth was destroyed. I mean, God supposedly destroyed the earth with water, and Noah was the only one left, right?
Yeah, but there were some others
Oh, okay.
that survived, but not from the Hebrew race.
Because it goes
That's
into
why.
the 400,000 people that were left, the seed of Ham and Japheth come 400,000 and enter another land to stay with these people who came from the great eternal knowledge. They're calling in this thing, they keep calling God the power and the great eternal knowledge. I found it interesting that they calling it, yeah, great eternal knowledge and the power. Those were two of the words for God. So I just thought that was interesting. And then just one last thing before you start reading is the guides told me this weekend, because I was like, well, who am I supposed to call on? Jesus? Like I'm always talking to the guides in my head. I look crazy. But I was just like, seriously, like I want to know, because I don't want to call on the creepy Jesus, because I have an issue with that, because I had a weird experience with it. And they said, the Lord. You call on the Lord. You ask the Lord to protect you. You ask the Lord to keep you safe. You ask the Lord to be with you. You ask the Lord to show you their unconditional love. You ask the Lord. And I was like, well, couldn't it be the Lord of darkness? And they said, well, your intention is to connect with something that's unconditionally loving. So that's what you're going to connect with. If you want to connect with the Lord of darkness, then, by all means. But they're saying with your intention, you're trying to connect with something that's protective and it's going to keep you safe and make you feel happy and good. And they said, call upon the Lord. But that was just for me personally. But if anybody got confused because we started talking about the Jesus thing and all that stuff, which I found, by the way, online, it's J-E, I lost it. Oh, well, I lost it. It was Jesh. It wasn't Lesos. It was Jesus, but yeah, it was Yeshua first became a known from the name Yehosua. That's what you're talking about, right? Yehosua.
I
And
don't
it got
know.
changed
It's
to
just
Jeshua.
no. His name is Joshua. He was given the name Joshua, but it is pronounced Yeshua. And then when it's translated into Greek, it's Jesous. And then when that is translated into English, it becomes Jesus, Jesus. So his
Funny
name is
how.
actually Joshua. Joshua. But like you say, there's no J. So
Mm,
it's actually Yeshua or Yeshua. Yeshua is Joshua. And then when it's translated into Greek, it's Jesous. And then when Greek is transferred into English, it's Jesus. And that's where we came up with Jesus. The Western world chose, but the Muslim world calls him Issa. Issa.
Issa.
ISA.
Oh yeah, Issa was the devil. That's right. Yeah, that was freaky. That's what I
That's what
totally forgot about that.
that's what you were saying. Yeah. Well, it's not the Jesus that the Muslims um, adore isn't the Jesus that the Christians know, because they believe that Jesus had gone about his life. He put an innocent person on the cross instead of himself, and he didn't resurrect, and that's all a big fairy tale. They believe it the same way the Jews do, that somebody stole his body. They don't believe his body was stolen. They believe that he was never even went into a cave in the first place, and that he just continued on his mission for a little while after the crucifixion, and then he just disappeared. They talk about Jesus just disappearing in the year something like 36 AD. But anyway, to get back to the point, what I wanted to do as of last week was, yes, we can either continue on with the Jesus story, or we can continue on with the Adam and Eve story. I think I might have just lost Marissa.
No, I'm here.
No,
My
she's
battery
there.
almost died. I just got a plug and plugged it in.
Okay. So we can either continue on with the Jesus story, we can continue on with the Adam and Eve story, but what we started on last week, what I'd like to write a book about, and I'm not going to go through the entire Quran because it's too long. But my feeling was we have a book entitled Conversations with Jesus. There's a book out there by, what's his name? I forget his name. This is Conversations with God. So I was thinking, why don't we just, can we put a book together that's entitled Conversations with Muhammad and Gabriel? Because Gabriel is the one that brought all the words to Muhammad. And then the Muslims believe, and just as Muhammad believed, was that he was receiving God's words from Gabriel. And doggone, that thing is back again. I thought I smashed him.
I wrote down in the comments, what do you guys think? Right in the comment section.
Oh my God.
There's like 12 people right here live now. Should we continue with Adam? I think we should. I mean, if so many people, if 10,000 people watched our show all the way through the other day, I think that we should. I'll take the mosquito killer off the camera.
Mosquito.
Should we? I think we
Wait,
should.
I can't hear anything because I took my earplugs out.
Right.
Wait a minute. Sorry, I took my earplugs out to go get my hat. Doggone that stupid thing. He's still flying around my window right in front of me. Okay.
Look weird.
Did you lose me?
Nope. Right
there
here.
we are. Okay.
I was taking the mosquito killer.
So anyway, I'm very curious to write some kind of book that's entitled Conversations with Muhammad and Gabriel, because that's what the Quran is. It's Gabriel channeling, or it's Muhammad channeling Gabriel. Yes, it's very well known. I mean, everybody within the Muslim faith love Gabriel, and they call him Jibril, Jibril. They call Jesus Isa or Issa. But Gabriel is the one that gave the words of God to Muhammad over the course of 23 years. Now, you and I have been doing this for, less than 12, almost 12 years. Mm-hmm. So Muhammad was receiving channeled messages from Gabriel for a total of 23 years. And then he was, they were always after Muhammad. They're ready to kill him. People didn't like him. So somebody ended up poisoning him, just like Caesar. Caesar was poisoned by his own Senate. Anyway, so I can either read.
You're from the same soul group as. Remember they said that your soul was Caesar?
Yeah.
Right.
So I can either start in on the Quran, and believe me, it's okay, you Christians who are out there. It's okay to learn a little bit about this, because I knew nothing about the Islamic faith, the Muslim faith. I didn't. I only knew what comes across in newspapers or whatever. And to be honest with you, I had a very bad opinion of Islam.
Everyone kind of treats it like it's porn or something. They're like, no, don't show it to me. I don't want to see. I don't want to see. It's bad. And same with other religions. People don't want to look at anything that comes from another religion. So,
well, I think of it as bad because, we had planes.
Since 9/11. Hello.
Yeah, since 9/11. I mean, they wanted
to
blow up. That's right. Today's 9/11. How about that? That happened exactly, 22 years ago. I can't believe 22 years have gone by.
Everyone
That's crazy.
And all the stockbrokers died that day. I mean, that was the New York Stock Exchange building. Well, a lot of them. I mean, that were in that building. I was thinking about that the other day.
The New York Stock Exchange was not in the Twin Towers.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
No.
I thought it was.
No, a lot of people in finance died. What's that?
What was in the Twin Towers?
Lots of financial companies and big companies, big international companies. But no, Wall Street's is where all the stock market stuff's at.
Oh, okay. I thought.
And that isn't even near the Twin Towers. Building 7 was the big question mark, because Building 7 housed the CIA. the
Mm.
CIA, and the CIA is the bad, bad within the world.
Mm.
That does just makes the United States look really bad because the CIA is just
They're
a
the
bunch of,
spies, right?
well, they're not just spies, but they overthrow governments, they assassinate people. They're just they're a dark organization that even our Congress doesn't know anything about. They get blind funding, and we don't even know where the money goes. And all they do is they rig elections around the world. They kill leaders. They assassinate people. I mean, they're just an awful organization that needs to be completely eliminated. And hopefully, we're going to have a president that's going to do that. But anyway,
Probably eliminate the president before they get eliminated.
building seven was over near the Twin Towers. And then
Mm.
after the Twin Towers came down, building seven was just still standing there. But we also hear in since found tapes, the owner of the Twin Towers also owned the building seven, and he's on tape saying, "Pull it,"
Wow.
and it demolished. Just
Yikes.
that's the word they use whenever they demolish a building that comes and falls in within itself. He said, "Pull it," and building seven came down like it had gotten hit by a plane too. It's total BS. It's
Oh,
all a lie.
I was
It's
told by a
all a
New York
lie.
firefighter that they told them that it was not true, that some guy said in the airplane, like, let's do it for something or other, and then they crashed the plane, that wasn't true. It's like the last words that some guy said before they crashed into the towers. He was a New York firefighter that I met at one
No,
point. He was saying that
I
it was a big scam and everything. But
no, you're
yeah,
believing something that isn't true. That was the one airplane that was headed for either Congress or the White
yeah,
House.
yeah.
And the guy
He
is
says they shot it
on
down.
his phone. He's on his
Mhm.
own phone. It's been
Yeah,
all over, and he said, "Let's roll." And
yeah.
they took out the guys that had hijacked the plane, and then of course it just crashed, and it crashed
I
in
think he was saying
Pennsylvania.
that they shot down the
So
plane
don't
or something like that.
maybe it was shot down, but it crashed in Pennsylvania. But it
Yeah, they saved
was
it from hitting the White House, or I don't remember what he said. He said something like they had to save it from hitting something or other, but yeah, that they I don't know.
be
I was so
careful what you
young. I
say
was so
is
young. I
false.
was like, how old was I when this happened? 20
And you're just telling me
something.
last week, don't believe everything you see, and you're repeating
It's not
things,
true.
Marissa, that you believe that's actually false. I can clearly point out that
No,
you're wrong. So I don't know who
no,
you're listening to. Be careful what you listen to and what you
no.
put out there,
Oh, I
because
know.
there's plenty. He was on his phone. It's been on newscasts and everything. He was on his phone with his wife
Oh yeah, no, he
saying,
said that. He said that
let's
seriously.
roll." And
Yeah.
they took him out, and that plane all of a sudden crashed. Now, whether it was shot down in Pennsylvania or whether they crashed it themselves, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no,
But it
that's what
was
he was saying. He said the guy did say it. He was just saying that he doesn't believe that the airplane crashed itself. He believes that the government shot it down. That's all he was saying.
no, it's very possible. Even the
Yeah.
plane that flew into the Pentagon, I've seen pictures of the plane that went into the Pentagon. It was all gray,
Yeah, that's all he was saying. He wasn't saying the guy didn't say that.
like it was a drone. Some people think that the planes that went into the towers were drones. But if that's the case, what happened to the planes that had all the people that got hijacked out of Boston?
I don't think they were drones, unless the same thing happened to them that happened to that Malaysia plane.
Yeah, I think the Malaysia plane was just taken over by a whacked out pilot, and he made everybody pass out by cutting down on the oxygen, and then he just flew out. He just committed suicide, and they took
We channeled
everybody
about
with
that.
her.
Remember, we saw all the Malaysia airplane people that were like scientists. We saw them all like in this tent somewhere, and I pointed out on the map where they
Actually,
were.
that yeah, they were.
I
There was
think they were the
something
ones that
like
made COVID. If you want to get very
30.
conspiracy theory-ish.
Fauci made COVID.
Yeah.
Fauci did. That's all been proven now. You don't have to even speculate anymore.
Oh, well, he didn't personally make it.
Yes, he did. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he didn't personally. He gave the money
He made
to
AIDS,
the.
right?
Yes, he also created AIDS as well. He's pure evil. I mean,
Seriously?
it's just
I
a.
just heard that in my head.
Yeah, he did. I mean, that's. I've got some books from some scientists that said that he was just such an awful person in the '90s because he wouldn't allow certain things to happen to clean up the AIDS, and he just kept making it worse. And And then they just knew he was going to blow everything on COVID, and he did. I blame Trump for not for trusting that guy, for
Yeah.
trusting him. He should have followed his gut, and he did, because remember, Trump wanted to bring people back to school in of 2020.
Yeah.
We had the shutdowns in
They
March,
froze you because you
and
said
he wanted to have them back by Easter. Remember, and it
Trump.
was Fauci and all the other so-called
The
smart
AIs are
guys,
shutting you down.
and they convinced all the states to do whatever they did, because Trump couldn't force any of the states to do certain things, because that's how our republic is set up. It's set up, we have a federal government, but we have states that are independent of the federal government, and they can do whatever they want to do. So all these states are the ones that shut everything down. But
Yeah.
Trump wanted everybody to go back to work, and remember, on Easter, he kept wanting to
Let's
have
talk about
everybody back
Adam.
on Easter. So anyway, that's another story. So to be honest with you, I'd like to do the deal with Gabriel, and then we can get back to Adam and Eve, and then we can get back to the Jesus story. I'd like to spend a few days just getting enough between Muhammad and Gabriel. If you don't think you can do it, then I'll just go right to Adam and Eve, and we'll go back to the Adam and Eve story.
Well, let's why don't we start with the Gabriel thing tomorrow, and let's finish with the Adam thing, because I think Adam and Eve stuff. I mean, or do it. I mean, we've only got like 20 minutes, so no point in
Yeah.
starting a brand new subject right now. We can just go into the. Let's see what the comments say. Let's see if anybody commented. I asked them to comment to see what they wanted to see. I love learning about religion and more. Someone says Gnostic would be nice too.
We've
I'm
done
learning.
some Gnosticism. We've done some
They're leaning towards
Gnosticism.
Adam and Eve. Love learning about. Let's see. Rachel says happy to learn about all religions. I would like to hear what the guides say about that. Was it not Jesus who was crucified? Did he carry on his mission? Oh, someone was asking about that. I'd like to hear about that. The thing is with Rachel, the thing is the guides always get all weird. Like when we ask stuff like that, they go, well, there's actually, and they're already saying in my head, there's more than one reality. I don't like it when they do that. It's the whole not Magellan effect. Is it Magellan effect or the Mandela effect or whatever? They always get into that, saying there's multiple realities and blah blah blah. Actually, they're saying Jesus was in all rights left, died, and resurrected, but he didn't resurrect into physicality the way that people want to believe that he did. Because a lot of people actually believe that that it's being said that he actually became physical again and was like cruising around, walking around, but he wasn't.
He
He was an
did.
apparition. He was in the astral plane.
He came down in his Morancha body.
Well,
Morancha
that's why
body.
people couldn't
He
touch him.
never.
They wouldn't have been able
He
to touch him.
wouldn't. He wouldn't let anybody touch him.
Because their hand would have gone right through him.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he was a ghost, basically walking around.
Yeah, because he even in the Bible, he walked through doors. I mean, he walked through walls. He walked through walls, and then he just would disappear. He just
He was
gone.
a ghost.
He just gone. But they would see him as a physical body. Whether they saw him as an apparition, don't
They're
know.
seeing it as an
But
apparition.
he could hold things, because he cooked fish for them while they were out fishing, and then they came back in. Jesus was sitting on the beach and cooking fish, so he could actually hold
What are
things.
those things called? In physical mediumship, there's things called trumpets, and the medium and the battery. There's a physical medium, there's a battery that gives them all their energy, and God too. And they sit there, and these trumpets rise up on tables, and then ghosts talk through them, and people can actually hear them. But they have these things, I can't remember what they're called. Apports. I think they're called apports, and it's where the ghosts or the actual spirit beings on the other side actually send things like rubies and like jewels, or even just like, a fork or like whatever. They send stuff through from the astral plane into the physical. And the people that were in the seances would have to have these big burlap things over their lap because they were so hot. They would come through and they would burn their laps. And there was actually a physical medium that was known for bringing rubies through from the astral plane, because ghosts or spirits can take the physical matter from our bodies, and they can actually pick stuff up. That's why, like, people go like when we were at Disneyland, we had a remote fly across the room. There's totally a ghost in the room. I mean, we're like, the remote just fly across the room. It was like straight haunted in there. So ghosts can pick stuff up if they use the energy from the people that are in the physical plane. So what the guides are saying is that it's everybody's into the technicalities of things, and everybody wants to believe that he physically, like his body just like resurrected and was walking around, but it was just, he was showing us that there's an afterlife. He was showing us that there's a place that we go, and he was showing us that we have these 45 days after we pass away to kind of resolve things in this world, and then we go on to, like, we either do our review before or we do it afterwards, depending on how we want to do it. But he was showing us that there is eternal life afterwards, that we don't just die and go into the ground. And that was the whole point of him being here and teaching us to be good people, to follow the Father, to follow our soul, and that when we die, we're not just dead, because that's what they believed. So that's the answer they're giving me, Rachel. So that's it. Anyways, that's the
Yeah,
answer.
from what I've learned from the Muslim faith of Islam, is that you don't just go to paradise right away. You have to wait for another dispensation. The Jews feel the same thing. They don't think that we just die and go on off to the first mansion world, or off to the resurrection halls, or to the I don't know, the place that we get to see our Akashic records, which is our whole life. That is that's the judgment halls. There's the resurrection halls, the judgment halls, all within the first mansion world. And in the Bible, it only talks about three heavens. Paul does, but the Islamic world speaks of 7 heavens. And so does the Urantia book. The Urantia book talks about 7 mansion
3
worlds
of them are not very
that
heavenly.
that we have to live on. Each one is progressively more. They could be in other dimensions. I don't know what they are, but there are 7 mansion worlds we go through to get through the Urantia realm. And then after we get out of the Urantia realm, then we start progressing in our spiritual. We meld with that piece of the Father, and we start our spiritual journey of attaining the Father. So anyway, but I've got Adam and Eve here. I can go back to what happened, how they got here, who they are, over the next few minutes, and then we can wrap it up. And then tomorrow we can start right in with Gabriel and Muhammad.
Okay, just real quick. So the Father is with us no matter what through the entire journey, even down in the first realm that's basically like hell, and earth encompasses first, second, third, and fourth levels of heaven. But we're with the Father the whole way. We meld with the mother energy, which is going into the top of the 4th kingdom. We meld with that mother energy and connecting at the umbilicus, and she starts to pull us up into, like, basically into the womb, where we'll be born and recreated as a Christ being in the 5th world. And that's when we enter the 5th world. And the whole reason why everyone wanted to incarnate onto earth right now is because earth was moving from the 2nd to the 3rd to the 4th, all in the span of one lifetime. Earth was going whoosh, like that, up into there. So everybody has the ability to be up in that 5th world. So all the souls that were like kind of like not losers, but the souls that like just didn't get it, it's like this was an opportunity for us to live on a planet that was pretty much going to do the heavy lifting for us and take us with it. Like, you got to be really, really spiritually just to like get left behind down there. But all the angels and all the fallen angels are trying to hold everybody down because they want to keep that reality going, and they want to keep Earth down there. While Earth is trying to evolve up there, because Earth is its own being as well. Okay, Adam and Eve now. I'm ready to go.
Just give me a slight aside. Some of you out there, you might want to check in on the most persecuted religion on earth right now. The most persecuted religion on earth right now is the Falun Gong. The Falun Gong. Falun. Then the second word, Gong. Gong. The Falun Gong
Says it's got a weird name.
believe that there is one eternal Father, and that souls come to earth to cleanse themselves from the dirtiness that they have experienced in their previous incarnations. And it's like earth is wanted by all the souls. All the souls want to come down to earth because they feel that they can cleanse all the crap that's been filled within them, within all the different lives that they have existed in. And somehow earth is the place that they can come down and cleanse themselves and get rid of the negative that was within themselves. And that is Falun Gong. So look at it. And the reason why they're persecuted is because they're from China. And China doesn't allow any religion except they make you believe that Xi Jinping is God. just like in North Korea, Kim Jong-un is God, and there is no other
The ruler
gods.
or
There is
something.
no Jews. They believe that they are the gods, that they were put on earth by a god or something. But they're not. You're not allowed to have any religions in China. Christians get taken off, but the Falun Gong, there's been millions of them that have been sent off to concentration camps, and why they allow themselves just to be taken, I don't know. Or maybe the word gets out. There's so many finks out there, telling on their neighbors, "Oh, I heard him praying to something." Oh, next thing you know, the Chinese SS shows up and arrests you, and the next thing you know, you're in a concentration camp, and they're killing them. They're killing them and using all their organs for organ transports or trans. It's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. But if you have a chance, check out Falun Gong and what they stand for. It's there's so many religions in the world, but they all believe in one Father and one God. They believe in an eternal Father. Even Buddhism believes in a in eternal bliss that comes from some heaven. And I always say Buddhism is a religion without a God, but it teaches you to be a good person on earth. That's pretty much it. Anyway, let me just get into this Adam and Eve. Many of you have heard this before, but I'm going to say it again. And this is from the Urantia book, page number 74. Not page 74, it's paper number 74. And I'll just read for a few minutes.
And Seth
Adam
is
and
here.
Eve. What's that?
That's who's here, Seth.
Seth is here.
Yeah, I don't know who Seth is. Oh, that was Adam's son. That's probably why when I was talking about him,
Adam.
he came in. Adam and Seth and Eve are here. So, anyways.
Well, you're going to see Adam and Eve had 50 pairs of children, 100 children up in Jerusalem
I couldn't even
when they
handle two.
left. And
He's a badass.
and they're all made in pairs. They're made in pairs because they become eternal sons. And not eternal sons, but what's the term? Material sons of daughters. They're scientists. They're scientists, basically. They had worked for 11,000 years before they ever came to Earth up there in Jerusalem. But anyway, here's the story in the Urantia book of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve arrived on Earth from our year, 1934, which is almost 100 years now. They arrived here 37,848 years ago. 37,000, not 6,000 like the Bible says. 37,848 years ago. And
I said 38,000 years before. I said 38,000 years earlier. Okay, anyways, go ahead. That's cool.
So it was in mid-season when the garden was in the height of bloom that they arrived. At high noon and unannounced, the two seraphic transports. What are seraphic transports? UFOs? Ships? What are they? There goes that stupid. God, I'm going to get that when I'm off this air. He's dead. He's going to be dead.
Poor mosquito. He's never going to see his family again.
No, I'll try to get him outside somehow. Let him go get eaten up by the birds. The birds just swoop right down and eat him anyway. Mm-hmm. Birds are amazing. I mean, they just fly through the air and, oh my gosh, you just flew over my head.
I still remember when you told me that birds mate like this. When you told me the birds mate like this.
Birds eat their weight every day. Ugh. And bugs and worms and whatever, but most of the time birds fly around with their mouths open, just sucking up microscopic little things flying around.
Here. I can feel it. Yuck. Okay, Adam and Eve and Seth.
So they arrived at high noon and unannounced, the two seraphic transports, accompanied by the Jerusalem personnel, entrusted with the transportation of the biologic uplifters. Adam and Eve were the biologic uplifters to Earth, and settled slowly to the surface of the revolving planet Earth, in the vicinity of the temple of the Universal Father, which is what Amadon had built. All the work of the rematerializing, think about this, all the work of rematerializing the bodies of Adam and Eve was carried on within the precincts of this newly created shrine. How do we take that? I take it that they created their bodies out of the minerals of the earth.
Rematerializing is just bringing them into the material world and lowering their vibrations enough to where they can be seen.
I picture Star Trek. Remember Star Trek? They would go on into this little chamber and they would go, and then they'd be transported to somewhere and then they go, and then come back to life again down on the planet or whatever. I kind of picture that. But anyway, but Adam and Eve, as humans, had every mineral that was within the earth. That's why they say they're made from the clay, from the earth. So what does that mean in the Urantia book? I don't know. We'd have to ask the midwayer who we're talking to on this. In fact, I wonder if we have the name of who the. Hang on a second. Let me go to the bottom. Let me see if we've got the author of this one, of this particular paper. Let's see. The Golden Age is a myth. That's at the end down here. Let's see.
They keep saying it's source that they're channeling.
Doesn't say who the. Narrated by Salonia, the seraphic voice in the garden. This story of Adam and Eve was narrated.
Poor bug.
What the heck? It was a fly. This one is narrated by Salonia, who was the seraphic voice in the garden. The seraphic, that would be the angel in the garden. We'll get more into that, but that's who is being channeled right now, is Salonia. So it'd be kind of nice if Salonia came into the picture.
She's
right
here.
now.
All I see is a right eye, or it could be a left eye, and teeth.
Then ask Salonia, what does it mean by rematerializing? Adam and Eve were rematerialized.
I am not materialized here. I am a voice. I am a sound. Just as you're a voice and you're a sound, you're a frequency, you're a vibration. You are not material either. For when we become material, we become something that can be felt, seen, heard, and processed by the five senses that you believe you're limited to. The materialization of a being is merely them being able to be processed by these five senses. Understand and know that it doesn't mean the being is gone when they are not materialized. It does not mean that they don't exist anymore. It just means that they are not in and of the ability for you to see with your light refractors that are within your brain, that are within your neurological system, whereby you can feel, sense, hear, and see something. And that's how you believe that it is real. But you can feel when something is there. You'll just convince yourself that you didn't feel anything. You'll convince yourself that you're crazy before admitting that something that you cannot see is affecting you. But that is what rematerializing is. For beings that dematerialize are still there. They just cannot be seen.
Okay.
I just see teeth.
Yeah, let me wrap up because we're going over a little bit. All the work of rematerializing the bodies of Adam and Eve. Now, this is being channeled from Salonia. So, all the work of rematerializing the bodies of Adam and Eve was carried on within the precincts of this newly created shrine. So all the scientific work or whatever of rematerializing was happening within that earthly shrine that had been built to God by Amadon and Van. And from the time of their arrival, 10 days passed before they were recreated in dual human form for presentation as the world's new rulers. So it took them 10 days to materialize them into human form. They regained
matter from the earth.
What's that?
They had to pull matter from the earth. They had to pull things from trees and from dirt and from water. It was matter. Actual matter had to be pulled into their etheric bodies that existed as prior to, before, after. Their etheric bodies, their templates had to have like matter from the earth, all the different particles from the earth pulled into them. And it took several days to kind of vacuum all that stuff into them to materialize them.
Yeah,
That's
so 10 days. And it goes on, it says they were going to be presented, so it took them 10 days. They were recreated in dual human
great.
form for presentation as the world's new rulers. They regained consciousness simultaneously. The material sons and daughters always serve together. It is the essence of their service at all times and in all places, never to be separated. They are designed to work in pairs, and seldom do they function alone.
So like
And then,
AIs.
now this is what it was like. Let me just take this for a few more. Gosh, we're over time.
That's fine. Are you guys?
Adam and Eve. Let me just do Adam and Eve on Gerizim. What was it like when they were up there on the headquarters planet of our system, which is our system? There are 1,000 inhabited planets within our system. We're one. We're one, and our planet is number, out of 1,000. Our planet is number 606, and it is called Satania. Satania. Our system is called Satania, but Urantia, which is Earth, is planet number 606 within our system. And the headquarters planet of our system, wherever that may be up there, is Gerizim. Gerizim. Now, this is Adam and Eve on Gerizim. The planetary Adam and Eve of Urantia, Earth, were members of the senior core of material sons on Gerizim, being jointly number 14,311. So there were at least 14,310 more pairs up there on Gerizim for other planets, other places. They belong to the third physical series and were a little more than 8 feet in height. At the time Adam was chosen to come to Earth, he was employed with his mate in the trial and testing physical laboratories of Gerizim. For more than 15,000 years, they had been directors of the division of experimental energy as applied to the modification of living forms. They were, for 15,000 years, they were the directors of the division on this planet. Just think of scientists, a division of experimental energy as applied to the modifications of living forms. I picture UFOs coming down to Earth, grabbing some
Cows.
types of, fish, cows, whatever, and then they take them back to wherever. They take them to these labs, and the labs go to work, and they change their DNAs or whatever, and they create new animals, maybe for other planets, and take them. And they're always coming and going, and I think of Earth as sort of like a lab, like we're like a lab. They keep trying out things here on Earth. A lot of times, most everything is down underneath the water. And then from the water, things grow. Eventually, we became humans because we eventually came out of the water as reptiles to eventually become mammals, to eventually sudden changes. And always looking for the missing link. Missing link is these guys, is these scientists, these whoever they are, angelics, whatever.
They can't fully put their frequency into us, otherwise we would explode. That's what they just said. So they keep trying to bring material beings into resonance with angelic frequencies and harmonics, and they want so badly to be able to live inside of us, or have their own bodies and live as human beings, but they just can't bring their full consciousness. It's like they have to leave half of themselves behind and put half of themselves in here. But by putting half of themselves in here and half there, they can only have full consciousness and awareness in one place. They can't be split into the way that we can when we're in heaven or when we're in the astral planes. We can split ourselves into lots of different pieces, but they want to physically be here on Earth, and they want to be able to reign and live and, touch and eat and have sex and do all the things that humans can do. But they want to consciously remember it. They don't want to go through a veil of forgetfulness. And that's what the missing link is there. It's their actual frequency of them being in a physical body without being particleized, is what they're calling it. particleized, whatever that means.
Yeah, particleized. Again, I think of Star Trek, dematerialized, rematerialized, particleized, what have you. Anyway, long before this, they had been teachers, long before they became the directors up there in Jerusalem for 15,000 years. Long before this, they had been teachers in the citizenship schools for new arrivals on Jerusalem. That would be you and I. That would be people who die. And they go off into this Marancha world. And in the Marancha worlds, we go to school. Remember, my dad said he was in school up in the mansion world #1, which we have to go to
That's
first.
mansion world 3.
They were in citizenship schools on. So Jerusalem,
citizenship school is only the 3rd mansion. Citizenship school is learning to live in dense reality and work your way through and understand and know that you actually are love, and that love embodies us and love lives within us. And that's how citizenship school is like learning to accept and understand and know love, even though we feel as if we've been particleized, like split off from God and like banned down into a world that doesn't understand and know us. And it's like re-merging with truth is what we need to learn when we're in the 3rd kingdom, basically the third kingdom of heaven.
Well, that's where Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's where Adam and Eve were before they became directors, and then eventually added and brought down to earth. There were a lot of volunteers. Our Adam and Eve were chosen. Anyway, long before this, they had been teachers in the citizenship schools for new arrivals on Jerusalem. And all this should be borne in mind in connection with the narration of their subsequent conduct on Urantia. In other words, they're saying, keep this in mind. This is what they did before they came down and became Adam and Eve on earth. Now, when the proclamation was issued calling for volunteers for the mission of Adamic adventure on earth, Urantia, the entire senior core of material sons and daughters volunteered. Everybody. I guess there's 14,000 some
144,000.
Something like that. They all volunteered. Well, up here they said there was 14,000. What was it again? There were 14,311. Our Adam and Eve were jointly numbered 14,311. Out of how many? I don't know. Maybe it was 144,000. But anyway, so all this should be borne in mind with the connection. When the proclamation was issued calling for volunteers for the mission of Adamic adventure on earth, the entire senior core of material sons and daughters volunteered. The Melchizedek examiners, we've explained many times what the Melchizedeks are. Don't forget, Abraham met Melchizedek. Melchizedek is described by Paul in the New Testament as having no beginning and no end. No beginning and no end. They were created, a created order by the Father and the Son and the Eternal Spirit, all together. They created Melchizedeks. Melchizedeks are they're the teachers. They're the teachers that go everywhere within all of the universes. And there's different orders of Melchizedeks. So anyway, the Melchizedek examiners.
Horses with man bodies. They look like those things. What are those things called? Are they manitars or something? Look like they have human core body with arms and a head, like a normal human head, but they look like they have horse legs or something like that. That's interesting.
Well, Abraham did meet with Melchizedek. I think if Abraham saw him with an animal head, it would have been described.
No, it wasn't an animal head. It was a man head and a man body, but it looks like they have 4 legs for some reason.
Maybe in some places they are.
Yeah.
Maybe humans have 4 legs and look like cows somewhere else. Who knows?
Probably. Something.
The Melchizedek examiners, with the approval of Lanaforge, that's a very high being, and the Most Highs of Edentia. The Most Highs, they're the gods of our. Edentia is the headquarters planet of our constellation, and there are 100 systems within our constellation. And we're one system within 100 systems in the constellation. The constellation are run by what are called the Most Highs. You find that throughout the Old Testament. They talk about God as the Most High. Well, these are gods of our constellation, which includes 100 systems. So with the approval of Lana Forge, whoever that is, and the Most Highs of Edentia finally selected the Adam and Eve, who subsequently came to function as the biologic uplifters of Urantia. They're brought down here to biologically uplift the world. At that point, there were some hybrids through the angels that had come down with Caligastia, and Caligastia was the Prince of Peace, or the planetary prince, and he was ordered by Lucifer to come down and be the planetary prince. He brought these 10 associates. They all fell except for one, and that was Van. And Van stayed and mixed with somebody and had Amadon, who was a hybrid angel, whatever you might want to call him, and a human. Now, Adam and Eve had remained loyal, and then Adam and Eve were to mix with those hybrids. Adam and Eve had remained loyal to Michael during the Lucifer rebellion. Nevertheless, the pair were called before the system sovereign, that would be Michael, and this entire cabinet for examination and instruction. So, they were called onto the carpet. They went to go talk to the big guy. The big guy was Michael. The details of Urantia affairs were fully presented, and they were exhaustively instructed as to the plans to be pursued in accepting the responsibility of rulership of such a strife-torn world, because Lucifer had already fallen. He'd already fallen. They were put under joint oaths of allegiance to the Most Highs of Edentia, the headquarters world of our constellation, wherever that is, and to Michael of Salvington. Salvington is the headquarters planet of our entire universe, and there are 100 constellations within our universe. And they were duly advised to regard themselves as subject to the Urantia core of Melchizedek receivers until that governing body should see fit to relinquish rule on the world of their assignment. So the Melchizedeks came down, and they were kind of in charge. Adam and Eve were brought down to be biologic uplifters, but the Melchizedeks were there constantly to help them through troublesome times. Now, this Jerasim pair left behind them on the capital of Satania and elsewhere 100 offspring, 50 sons, 50 daughters.
That's a lot of kids.
Magnificent creatures who had escaped the pitfall. Don't forget, they had been alive on Jerasim for 15,000 years. So, who had escaped the pitfalls of progression, who were all in commission as faithful stewards of universe trust at the time of their parents' departure for Urantia. So, they were good kids. And they were all present in the beautiful temple of the material sun's attendant upon the farewell exercises associated with the last ceremonies of the bestowal acceptance. These children accompanied their parents to the dematerialized headquarters of their order, and were the last to bid them farewell.
There's someone here named Amata, and she says, "You spoke of me." That was Van's, who Van made the people with. Wait, Van was the one that made Adam and Eve?
No.
You said something about Van.
Well, he rematerialized Adam and Eve into earthly human beings.
Oh, okay. Well, Amata is here, and she, it feels like a she, and she's saying that she is required in order to rematerialize things. So she's going to be here. So I see Van's energy. I see Amadan. Oh, Amadon, but this is Amata.
Maybe that's the mother. Maybe that's the mother of Amadon.
Interesting.
Maybe it's Amata who mixed with the angelic being of Van, and created Amadon to be the first. Amadon would probably be called the first Adam.
Yeah, that's what they keep saying. But oh my God, Amata means dust, particle of dust. It also means beloved. Amata means 8 different things in 8 different religions. Whoa, interesting. I'm not going to get into that, but that's very interesting. You guys look it up. Amata means.
So anyway, the 100 kids of Adam and Eve were were the last to bid them farewell in divine speed as they fell asleep, Adam and Eve, fell asleep in the personality lapse of consciousness, which precedes the preparation for seraphic transport. How long they transported, I don't know. The children spent some time together at the family rendezvous, rejoicing that their parents were soon to become the visible heads, in reality, the sole rulers of planet 606 in the system of Satania.
That's us,
And
right?
thus, yeah, and thus did Adam and Eve leave Jerusalem amidst the acclaim and well-wishing of its citizens. They went forth to their new responsibilities, adequately equipped and fully instructed concerning every duty and danger to be encountered on Earth.
And there's
And
Satan and
then,
Lucifer in the fallen world.
and then the next one is arrival. Chapter 2 is arrival of Adam and Eve, and
It's so interesting.
Well, let me just do this one, then we got to go because we're
fine.
way over time. Adam and Eve fell asleep on Gerizim, and when they awakened in the Father's temple on earth, in the presence of the mighty throng assembled to welcome them, they were face to face with two beings of whom they had heard much, Van and his faithful associate Amadon. These two heroes of the Caligastia secession were the first to welcome them in their new garden home. The tongue of Eden was an Andonic dialect. I kind of went over, there were seven, and Andon and Fanta. Andon and Fanta were the first two technical humans that came from lemurs, not from apes. Not from apes. We came from a frog and then lemurs we became humans. Not because the apes went off in a completely different direction, and the human types went off in this direction. The apes went in that direction. They are cousins of ours, but they are not. We do not come from apes. We come from lemurs. So anyway, they come down, and they the people that were in the garden at that time, lots of people. There were 500 million people on the earth at that time, and Amadon and Van had assembled the ones that believed in a one God and would follow Van and Amadon. So Van and Amadon had markedly improved this language of an Andonic language by creating a new alphabet of 24 letters. And they had helped to see it become the tongue of Urantia as the Edenic culture would spread throughout the world. Adam and Eve had fully mastered this human dialect before they departed from Gerizim, so that the son of Andon heard the exalted ruler of his world address him in his own tongue. And on that day there was great excitement and joy throughout Eden as the runners went in great haste to the rendezvous of the carrier pigeons, assembled from near and far, shouting, "Let loose the birds, let them carry." I'm gonna get that guy.
Oh my God.
"Let loose the birds, let them carry the word that the promised son has come." Hundreds of believer settlements had faithfully, year after year, kept up the supply of these home-reared pigeons for just such an occasion. And as the news of Adam's arrival spread abroad, thousands of the nearby tribesmen accepted the teachings of Van and Amadon, while for months and months pilgrims continued to pour into Eden to welcome Adam and Eve and to do homage to their unseen father. I don't know. I should probably stop it right there. Soon after their awakening, Adam and Eve were escorted to the formal reception of the great mound to the north of the temple. This natural hill had been enlarged and made ready for the installation of the world's new rulers. Here at noon, the Urantia Reception Committee welcomed the son and daughter of the system of Satania. Amadon was chairman of this committee, which consisted of 12 members embracing a representative of each of the 6 Sangic races. Sangic, they were the colored races. They came from out of twins. The acting chief of the Midwayers, Anan. So the Midwayers are there as well. Anan, the acting chief of the Midwayers, who Casey is channeling most of the time, the Midwayers. And a loyal Anan was, what's that? Anan. 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 and
Okay.
she was a loyal daughter and spokesman for the Nodites. The Nodites. They were some of the people that were around the world at the time of Adam and Eve coming. Noah, the son of the architect and builder of the garden and executive of his deceased father's plans, and the two resident life carriers. Um, the next act was the delivery of the charge of planetary custody to Adam and Eve by the senior
Man.
Melchizedek, chief of the Council of Receivership on earth. The material son and daughter took the oath of allegiance to the Most Highs of Nor-Lashadik, that's the name of our constellation, and to Michael, our God, our creator, to Michael of Nebadon, and were proclaimed. Nebadon is the name of our universe, and were proclaimed rulers of Urantia by Van, who thereby relinquished the titular authority which for over 150,000 years, 150,000 years,
Okay.
Van was in charge. They had a tree. They ate from the tree of life and gave them immortality. And he had held by virtue of the count of the Melchizedek receivers. I would go on. It says they're invested with kingly robes and these kind of things, but I don't know how far I'd have to get into this to realize that there at one time there were birds. There were birds that, just like the movie Avatar. Remember how we would ride around on the birds? There
Mm.
were birds on Earth that used to be rideable, and Adam and Eve would fly around to see what their world was made up of by flying around on these big birds, which have since become extinct,
I
according
like
to
dragons.
the sort of like
The
dragons. Yeah, probably like dragons, but they were tamed and they could be ridden, just like in the movie Avatar. So anyway, I think I was going to get down to that, but there's so much more, and I
We
could
should
get to
keep
a
going
point
on
where
that instead of starting with a different topic. We should just go on that for like a couple more times to get through the whole. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get to the point. The guides are trying to get to the point where they're these
the
material
default.
beings. Yeah,
The
the fall.
default. We haven't gotten to the default
That's
yet.
when they become Lucifer and Satan.
Technically, yeah. So, in a
It
way,
says that in
yeah.
there. It says that the Adam and Eve are Lucifer and Satan.
No, no. It will say who Satan was and who the snake was, that convinced them to go in the direction of Lucifer as opposed to following God's will. But I'd be doing this all afternoon, so let's pick it up tomorrow right here,
Okay.
where and Adam and Eve were invested with kingly robes. I'll start there tomorrow, and we'll eventually get to the Quran and with Gabriel. And there's that doggone thing. Did I get him? No, there he goes again. Oh my
We should do
gosh,
that next time when you're here in person.
indestructible, totally indestructible. Okay, anyway, I'm
We
Joe
should
Morris with
definitely do the
Answers
book,
Heaven
but
Speaks.
we can do the book, but I think we should do that also when we're not live because people's opinions sometimes will get involved in the channeling. We should just do the recordings, kind of like how we did with did we do that with Peter? Or we did that last time with Peter's
Yeah,
book.
and I haven't transcribed Peter's book yet because I'm missing one or two of the tapes. I have to get them from you. You did them all,
Peter
and
says such a
I
good.
screwed. I totally screwed up on mine. I missed one entirely, and another one stopped. Remember, before we were even done. So you should have four or
Peter said he
five.
made his point that that his book, remember he said he wanted his book to be this big.
Yeah,
He wanted his book to be tiny. He wanted it to be called The Rock. And he wanted it to say that, like, don't believe everything you read.
yeah, yeah. That's
Because he
true.
supposedly created the church, but he says the church has turned into a monster. And that's all he wanted to share, really.
Yeah, the church did become a monster. It
Mhm.
became run by popes, and popes became warriors, military
Mhm.
leaders, and the popes went around through the Crusades, killing all the Arabic people, all the well, certainly the Muslims.
Yep.
That came from Muhammad. It was a mess. It was a mess. They had the
The
Crusades.
church still is a
Everybody's
monster.
killing. Christian church was killing people. The Muslims were killing people. It was just a big mess. It's a
He
big
says
mess.
the
And we're
Roman Catholic Church is what became like the definite like holder over what religion is today. But that the people that got involved in that church, uh, they took it upon themselves to be monsters. But that religion was never created for that reason. It was never created for that reason. And that's what he doesn't like. And he says that the first people that came down didn't need religion because they just knew. They just knew what they were. They knew how they were. They knew what was inside of them. They just knew. They didn't need to talk about it. They didn't need to learn about it. They didn't need to do anything. They needed to teach the people that were like the Neanderthalish type of people, like
Yeah.
what they had inside of them or what they could have inside of them, if they turned themselves over to that higher frequency. But he says sometimes it's like trying to teach a bunch of birds. They already kind of know what they are, just like we know what we are, but we have that satanic energy within us that makes us fight against what we know we truly are already. And that's that voice that we hear that goes, go do this bad thing, go do this bad thing. He says, and we give into that and we allow that to take us over when we're like 7 or 8 years old. And that's the fear inside of us. That's the fear that we'll never go back to where we came from. And that's pure love. And that's what we need to understand, not like do this and do this and do this. And this. He says the Mohammedism is was supposed to be not what the Muslimism became. That was more rules and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, he says that's for my book, and my book is going to be this long because I'm humble. And he starts laughing.
Peter.
Yeah,
Humble Peter. Yeah,
yeah.
he started the Roman Catholic Church. That was
Oh, he
started by
did?
him. Yes,
No way.
Yeah, Peter started the church in Rome. Paul established the church all over the Roman Empire, but
Okay.
Peter is the one that established the church in Rome, and
That's
then
why
they
he's
ended up.
sticking up for it. He says that that's the church that really became the church today. He says, but the people within it became monsters, not the church.
Yeah, the popes, the people, and the bishops, and the archbishops, and the cardinals, and whatever. They
He
all
said also
become.
the people that worship God and worship and want to learn about Christ and all that are the ones that kind of like, like a lot of the times we think our parents or we think our bosses or we think other people think worse things about us than they really think. Like, oh, they hate me. Oh, they're so hard. When really we're putting those thoughts into our own mind about them. Like we're judging ourselves through them. So that he's saying a lot of religion is just a bunch of us reflecting our own judgment on ourselves back from what we think God is. And God doesn't judge. He says God just watches through us,
Mm,
not watches us, watches through us. He says, so you have to give God a good ride. You have to give God a good life. Because if your mind, if you allow it to be taken over by fear and sin, then God has to live through all that. So God's inserted himself into us and is the eyes that watch through our eyes. And that's why we have to turn our will and our life over to the Father, which is our soul that's there to guide us so that the God doesn't be like, oh, great. But God wants to experience everything is what Eve just said. You said God wants to experience everything, the good, the bad, everything. And Peter says, yeah, but if I was God, I wouldn't want to experience all the negative stuff, like all the bad stuff. And then Eve said, but God experiences all of his creations equally. And he goes, fine. And Rosemary goes, yeah, what she said.
what she said.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, I think we need to wrap it up right now,
Okay.
Marissa. So I'll say bye, and then you go ahead and drop off. I'm going to press my button that says go off. So
Okay.
anyway,
Well,
folks, we'll be
It
back
won't it
again
won't keep the
tomorrow.
recording, but, hold on, don't hit end yet. Okay, bye, everybody. Go to my website, get the books, all that good stuff. We're also our podcast, search Marissa Morris or Joe Morris on any podcasting, thing, and you'll see our thing come up. We're gonna change all the artwork and everything, and we're gonna start putting these on the podcast, but still visit us here and everything, but we are gonna have the edited as podcasts on there so you guys can listen in your cars and all that stuff and good stuff. And the old ones are good. My dad, we've got 20 of the old ones that I did a while back. And we're going to start that back up again. So anyways, have a great day. Thank you for being here. We will see you tomorrow.